Yes. Uh, Dear students, just now we have completed the macronutrients. Now we'll go for the micronutrients. 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 Under the micronutrients, first one is the iron. First one is the iron. Now let us come to the what is the role of iron in plants. The gets plants get iron in the form of ferric ions. That is Fe3 plus ions. Ferric ions. Compared to the other microelements now, plants require large amount of iron. Large amount of iron. Compared to the other elements now. Okay, plants require large amount of the iron. Large amount of the iron. It is a constituent of proteins. Iron is a constituent, or we can say that component of proteins. Iron is a component of proteins which involved in electron transfer. Which involved in electron transfer. Electron transfer like ferredoxin and cytochromes. Ferredoxin and cytochromes. It is a component of proteins which involved in electron transfer like ferredoxin and cytochromes. Ferredoxin and the cytochromes. Clear? So next one is the iron also helps in the formation of, or you can say it is involved in the formation of chlorophyll. It is involved in the formation of the chlorophyll. Then this activates the catalase enzyme. Iron activates the catalase enzyme. So this is the role of iron in plants. I'll repeat once again. Iron is the one of the micronutrients. Plants get the iron in the form of Fe3 plus ions. Compared to the other elements, plants require large amount of iron in order to carry out metabolic activities. Iron is the component of the proteins which is involved in transfer of electrons like ferredoxin and cytochromes. Clear? Then it helps in the formation of the chlorophyll. Or we can say it is also involved in the formation of the chlorophyll. Then iron activates the catalase enzyme. Iron activates the catalase enzyme. I think it is very clear. So this is the one micronutrient. Next, the second one is the manganese. 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 This is the another micronutrient. This is the another macronutrient. Manganese is another macronutrient. Plants get the manganese in the form of Mn2 plus. Plants get the manganese in the form of Mn2 plus. Mn2 plus. So this manganese is involved in the photolysis of water. Photolysis of water and and evolution of oxygen. Evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of light reaction. You remember this? I think you are getting now. Even the chlorine is also involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of the light reaction. Clear? So, plants get the manganese in the form of Mn2 plus. It is involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of the light reaction. I think it is very clear for you. Then, this manganese activates the enzymes of photosynthesis, respiration, respiration, and nitrogen metabolism. So these are the three functions of the manganese as in case of the plants. Okay, I'll repeat once again. Plants get the manganese in the form of Mn2 plus. As I said, it is involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of the light reaction. Then it activates the enzymes of photosynthesis, respiration, and nitrogen metabolism. Nitrogen metabolism activates the enzymes of photosynthesis, respiration, and nitrogen metabolism. I think it is very clear. Okay, next, third micronutrient is the zinc. Third micronutrient is the zinc. Plants get the zinc in the form of Zn2 plus. Plants get the zinc in the form of Zn2 plus. Got it? So this Zn2 plus activates the carboxylase enzyme. It activates the carboxylase enzyme. Activates the carboxylase enzyme. Then this is involved in synthesis of phytohormones like auxins. It is involved in synthesis of growth promoting hormones like auxins. So this function is very, very important. You have to keep in your mind. Many times they ask in the examination. So these are the 3 points you should keep under the zinc. So plants get the zinc in the form of Zn2 plus. It activates the carboxylase enzyme. It activates the carboxylase enzyme. It activates the carboxylase enzyme. Then it is involved in synthesis of growth promoting hormones like auxins. Clear? So this is the zinc. Next, let us come to the another macronutrient is the copper. Yes, plants get the copper in the form of Cu2 plus. Plants get the copper in the form of Cu2 plus. Cu2 plus ions. I think it is very clear for you. This is essential for copper ion. Copper is essential for overall metabolism. It is essential for the overall metabolism. Copper is essential for overall metabolism. Then it is associated with the enzymes. Copper is associated with enzymes involved in redox reactions. Involved in redox reactions. Redox reactions. I think it is very clear for you. That you should keep in our mind. So these are the 3 points you should keep under the copper. So number one, plants get the copper in the form of Cu2 plus ions. It is essential for the overall metabolism. Then it is associated with the enzymes involved in redox reactions. Associated with the enzymes involved in redox reactions. So these are the functions of the copper. I think it is very clear. So next let us come to the another micronutrient is the boron. Another micronutrient is the boron. Plants generally get the boron in the form of BO3 3 minus BO3 3 minus or either in the form of B4 O7 2 minus. Like that only plants get the boron. Got it? Plants get the boron in the form of BO3 3 minus or B4 O7 2 minus. I think it is very clear for you. Got it? So this boron is required for it is required for it is required for uptake and utilization and utilization of calcium ions. Uptake and utilization of calcium ions. Then this boron is essential for the pollen germination. Pollen germination. This is also very important. Essential for the pollen germination. Then cell division. Next, cell differentiation, and carbohydrate translocation, carbohydrate translocation. So these are the functions of the boron. Plants get the boron in the form of BO3 3 minus or B4 O7 2 minus. It is required for the uptake and utilization of the calcium ions, essential for the germination of the pollen grains, cell division, cell differentiation, and also carbohydrate translocation. So these are the functions of the boron. I think it is very clear to you. So plants get the boron in the form of BO3 minus or B4O72 minus, required for the uptake and utilization of the calcium ions, essential for the germination of the pollen grains, cell division, cell differentiation, and also carbohydrate translocation. So these are the functions of the boron. Next, sixth micronutrient is the molybdenum. Molybdenum. Sixth micronutrient is the molybdenum. Now let us come to the what is the role of molybdenum as in case of plants. Generally, plants get the molybdenum. Okay, in the form of MoO2 2 minus. MoO2 2 minus. Like that, only plants are going to get the molybdenum. Plants get the molybdenum in the form of MoO2 2 minus. I think it is very clear for you. Then it is the component of molybdenum is the component of component of enzymes component of enzymes like nitrogenase nitrogenase and nitrate reductase nitrogenase and nitrate reductase nitrate reductase. Then the next function is it is involved in it is involved in nitrogen metabolism. It is involved in nitrogen metabolism. So these are the functions of the molybdenum. So totally we have discussed the six micronutrients. I'll repeat once again. Those nutrients which are required to the plants less than 10 micromole kg minus 1 dry matter micronutrients. First one is the iron. Plants gets the iron in the form of ferric ions Fe3 plus. Compared to the other micronutrients, plants require large amount of iron for their metabolic activities. Iron is the constituent of proteins involved in electron transfer like ferroxin as well as the cytochromes. It is involved in the formation of the chlorophyll. Then iron activates the catalase enzyme. Clear? Next to manganese. Plants get the manganese in the form of Mn2 plus. It is involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of the light reaction. Then it activates the enzymes of photosynthesis, respiration, and nitrogen metabolism. Clear? Next, zinc. Plants get the zinc in the form of Zn2 plus. It activates the carboxylase enzyme. This is the micronutrient which is involved in synthesis of growth promoting hormones in plants like auxins. This is very important that you should keep in our mind. Okay, next let us come to the copper. Plants get the copper in the form of Cu2 plus. Clear? It is copper is essential for overall metabolism of the plant body. Overall metabolism of the plant body. Got it? No? Then it also okay activates the enzymes. It is also associated with the enzymes involved in redox reactions. Associated with the enzymes involved in redox reactions. Clear? Then boron. Plants get the boron in the form of BO33 minus or B4O72 minus. It is required for the uptake and utilization of calcium ions. This is important. Essential for the germination of pollen grains. Important. Cell division, cell differentiation, and also involved in carbohydrate translocation. Next one is the molybdenum. Plants get the plants get the molybdenum in the form of MoO2 minus. But dear students, here one point you should remember. Activation of the nitrogenase enzyme molybdenum iron complex is very essential. Molybdenum and iron complex is very essential for the activation of the nitrogen fixing enzyme is called nitrogenase. That also you should keep in our mind. Then it is the component of enzymes of nitrogenase and nitrate reductase. Nitrogenase both are involved in nitrogen fixation. Then it is involved in the nitrogen metabolism. Clear? So these are the six micronutrients. And one more is the chlorine. Okay, next we'll discuss now. Yes. Okay, next seventh micronutrient is the chlorine. Seventh micronutrient is the chlorine. Now let us think of what is the role of chlorine in plants. Plants get the chlorine in the form of Cl minus. Plants get the chlorine in the form of Cl minus. Dear students, you should remember. Among the micronutrients now, this is the nutrient which maintains the cation and anion balance in the cell. Cation and anion balance in the cell. Cation and anion balance in the cell. Among the macronutrients, potassium ions. Among the micronutrients, chlorine ion. They always maintain the cation and anion balance in the cell. Next, like manganese now, chloride ions are also involved in photolysis of water. Also involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen. Evolution of oxygen. Photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of light reaction. During non-cyclic photophosphorylation of the light reaction. Got it? No? Like manganese only. Chloride also involved. Chlorine is also involved. Okay. Also involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation. That is should keep in our mind. I think it is very clear. Next one is the along with the sodium and potassium ions now. Along with sodium and potassium ions, chloride ion also maintains the solute concentration. That is should keep in our mind. Along with the sodium and potassium ions, no, chloride ions also determine the solute concentration. Determine the solute concentration. Determine the solute concentration. So these are the four functions of the chloride. Yes. Okay, listen again. Plants get the chlorine in the form of Cl minus. This is the microelement maintains the cation and anion balance in the cell. It is involved in photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen during non-cyclic photophosphorylation of the light reaction. Clear? Okay, along with the sodium and potassium ions, chloride ions also determine the solute concentration. So this is the last micronutrient. So this much you should keep in our mind. I think it is very clear for you. So this is the role of the micro and macronutrients as in case of the plants. Role of micro and macronutrients as in case of the plants. As in case of the plants. Dear students, okay, we have discussed the two types of mineral elements, micronutrients and macronutrients. In addition to that, no, this also should keep in our mind. Essential elements are further classified into four groups actually. In addition to that, essential elements are also classified into four groups. Essential elements. In addition to the micro and macronutrients, no. In addition to the macro and micronutrients, the essential elements in plants are grouped into four types. Classified into four types. They are essential elements. They are essential elements as the components of biomolecules. 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 I can give the example carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. This is the one category that is should keep in our mind. As I said, in addition to the micro and macronutrients, essential elements are further divided into four groups. Essential elements as the components of biomolecules. You can take the example carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. This is the one category. Clear? Next. Essential elements. Essential elements essential elements as a components of as a components of essential elements as a components of energy as the components of energy as the components of energy. Here we can give the example magnesium ions associated with the chlorophyll, magnesium ions associated with the chlorophyll, and phosphorus associated with the ATP formation, associated with the ATP formation. So these are the best example for this section that you should keep in mind. Got it? Magnesium ions as in case of chlorophyll, phosphorus as in case of ATP, associated with the ATP. So these are the essential elements as the components of energy. Next, third one is the essential elements. Essential elements. Third one is the essential elements which activate and inhibit the enzymes, which activate activate or inhibit, the enzymes, I can give the example magnesium ions associated with the rubisco and pep carboxylase enzyme. Magnesium ions activates the rubisco as well as the pep carboxylase enzyme. Rubisco involved in C3 pathway. Pep carboxylase involved in C4 pathway. That details we have discussed in photosynthesis. That is should keep in our mind. Essential elements which activate or inhibit the enzymes. Best example is the magnesium ions. These ions activates the both rubisco as well as the pep carboxylase. Ribose biphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. P phosphoenol pyruvic carboxylase enzyme. Both are involved in C3 and C4 pathway respectively. Got it? What I'm telling you. So that you should keep on. Another one I can give the example. Zinc ions activates the alcoholic dehydrogenase enzyme. Alcoholic dehydrogenase enzyme. Z ions activates the alcoholic dehydrogenase enzyme. Got it? This is involved in alcoholic fermentation. That is should keep in our mind. Just now we have discussed that molybdenum. It activates the nitrogenase enzyme. It activates the nitrogenase enzyme. So this is the third category. Next, fourth category is the essential elements. Fourth category is the essential elements. Fourth category is the essential elements can alter the osmotic potential. Can alter the osmotic potential of the cell. 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 You can take the example of potassium ions. Best example is the potassium ions. You know that these are responsible for the opening and closing of stomata. Opening and closing of stomata by changing the osmotic potential of the guard cells. By changing the osmotic potential of the guard cells. Yes, students, you should keep all these four categories. This also you can expect in the NEET examination. I'll repeat once again. Look at the board, all of you. In addition to the micro and macronutrients now, the essential elements are further classified into four groups. Essential elements as a components of biomolecules. I have written the example here, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. Second one is the essential elements as a components of energy. You can take the example magnesium ions involved in chlorophyll, phosphorus involved in ATP generation. Clear? Number three, essential elements which can activate or inhibit the enzymes. Here you should remember, magnesium ions activates the rubisco involved in C3 pathway, pep carboxylase involved in C4 pathway. Zinc ions activates the alcoholic dehydrogenase enzyme involved in alcoholic fermentation. Then molybdenum always activates the nitrogenase enzyme involved in fixation of atmospheric gaseous nitrogen to nitrates. Clear? Then last one is the essential elements. Essential elements which can alter the osmotic potential. We can take the example, best example is the potassium ions. Okay, these potassium ions by changing the osmotic potential of the guard cells and guard cells now, they are responsible for opening and closing of the stomata. So that already we have discussed in proton transport theory in the mechanism of the stomatal transpiration. Clear? So these are the four groups or categories of the essential elements. You remember students, just name and examples you have to keep in your mind. I think this is clear for you. Yes. Yes. Okay, now let us come to the deficiency symptoms of nutrients. Let us come to the deficiency symptoms of essential elements. Deficiency, deficiency symptoms of essential elements. Deficiency symptoms of deficiency symptoms of essential elements. Essential elements. Deficiency symptoms of essential elements. Okay, look at the board, students. Here we should concentrate one term: critical concentration. Critical concentration. Among the micronutrients, we have discussed the 6 elements. Among the microelements, we have discussed the 7 elements. Clear? Each and every element requires some amount to the plants in order to carry out the metabolic activities. That is called optimum concentration. Optimum concentration. If concentration of any one of the element is below optimum, then it is called to be critical concentration. Then it is called to be critical concentration. Any element is said to be deficient when it is always below the critical concentration. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಡಿಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾವಾಗ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಒಂದು ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕಲ್ಗಿಂತ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ. Deficiency of any element any element is said to be deficiency when its concentration is below the critical concentration. Got it? Know what I'm telling you? See here among the nutrients or essential elements now, we can group as a 2 categories actually: mobilized elements, immobilized elements. Okay, this we should keep in our students. Mobilized elements, mobilized elements, mobilized elements. You can give the example nitrogen, potassium. Mobilized elements, you can give the example nitrogen, potassium, and magnesium. So these are the mobilized elements. These elements can move from one place to another place within the plant body. So deficiency of these mobilized elements now, first symptoms appear in older tissues. First symptoms appear in older tissues. Yes, this you should keep in our mind. I think you are getting it. So, critical concentration means all the elements are required some amount to the plants in order to carry out the various metabolic activities. We can consider as the optimum concentration. Suppose if the concentration of these elements below optimum, then it is called as critical concentration. The mineral element is said to be deficiency when its concentration is below the critical concentration. Clear? Mobilized elements, you can take the example nitrogen, potassium and magnesium. Deficiency of mobilized elements, first symptoms appear in older tissues. Then deficiency of immobilized elements. Deficiency of immobilized elements. Deficiency of immobilized elements. You can take the example sulfur and calcium. These are the immobilized elements. Deficiency of immobilized elements. You can take the example calcium and sulfur. Symptoms first appear in younger tissues. Symptoms first appear in younger tissues. Symptoms first appear in younger tissues. I think it is very clear for you. The most common deficiency symptoms in plants are the chlorosis, necrosis. Necrosis. Chlorosis means yellowing of the leaves due to the loss of chlorophyll. Yellowing of the leaves due to the loss of chlorophyll is called chlorosis. Following me? Yellowing of the leaves due to the loss of chlorophyll is called chlorosis. Death of the cells and tissues called necrosis. I think it is very clear. Yellowing of the leaves. Yellowing of leaves due to loss of chlorophyll. Yellowing of leaves due to loss of chlorophyll is called chlorosis. Then death of tissues and cells. Death of tissues and cells is called necrosis. This is the second symptom. Next. Another one is the stunted growth. Stunted growth. Stunted growth is nothing but reduce the rate of the growth in plants. That is the stunted growth. Next one is the abscission. Abscission of leaves and buds. Abscission of the leaves and buds. Abscission of the leaves and buds. This is another symptom. Next one. Abscission of the leaves and buds. Next one is the inhibition of cell division. Inhibition of the cell division. So these are the most common deficiency symptoms as in case of plants. Chlorosis, yellowing of the leaves due to the loss of chlorophyll. Necrosis, death of the cells and tissues. Reduce the rate of growth is also called stunted growth. Abscission of leaves and buds, nothing but premature fall of leaves and buds, nothing but abscission. Then inhibition of the cell division. Clear? So these are the deficiency symptoms. So immobilized elements, example, first symptoms appear in older tissues. Immobilized elements, example, the first symptoms appear in younger tissues. Then general symptoms are the chlorosis, yellowing of the leaves due to the loss of chlorophyll. Necrosis, death of the cells and tissues. Stunted growth or reduce the rate of the growth. Abscission of leaves and buds, premature fall of leaves and buds. Inhibition of the cell division. So these are the deficiency symptoms. I think it is very clear for you. Clearer? So this much you should remember. Next, let us come to the toxicity of micronutrients. Toxicity of micronutrients. Toxicity of micronutrients. You remember this. Toxicity of micronutrients. Just now we have discussed that those nutrients which are required to the plants less than 10 micromole kg minus 1 dry matter are called micronutrients. Are called micronutrients. That you should keep in our mind. Here micronutrients when compared to the macronutrients now. Micronutrients require very low amount to the plants in order to carry out the various metabolic activities. Compared to the macronutrients, plants require less concentration of the micronutrients in order to carry out the metabolic activities. Dear students, here you should remember three important points. Moderate decrease. Moderate decrease causes deficiency symptoms. Moderate decrease causes deficiency symptoms. Moderate increase causes toxicity. Yeah, you remember this actually. Got it? What I'm telling you. So, toxicity of micronutrients under this. Compared to the macronutrients, plants require the micronutrients in low amount. Moderate decrease causes deficiency symptoms. Moderate increase causes the toxicity. Got it? What I'm telling? Any mineral ion concentration in the tissues, any mineral ion concentration in the tissues that reduces the dry weight of the tissues by less than 10%, less than 10%, then it is said to be toxic. I think it is this point you should keep in your mind. Role of any ion concentration, role of any mineral ion concentration, in the tissues reduces the dry weight of the tissues by less than 10%. By less than 10%, then it is considered to be toxic. So these are the points you should remember under the toxicity of micronutrients. I'll repeat once again. These nutrients are required to the plants in low amount. Moderate decrease causes deficiency symptoms. Moderate increase causes toxicity. Any mineral ion concentration in the tissues now reduces the dry weight of the tissues by 10%. It is considered to be toxic. I think it is very clear. So these are the points you should remember under the toxicity of micronutrients. I think it is very clear for you. Clear now? Okay. Now let us come to the nitrogen cycle. Let us come to the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle. Yes. Before going to the nitrogen cycles, we'll discuss the biogeochemical cycles and the types of. Then we'll go for the nitrogen cycle. Biogeochemical cycles. Biogeochemical cycles. Cycling of chemical elements. Cycling of chemical elements from living organisms to the environment. Again from environment to the living organisms are called biogeochemical cycles. Cycling of chemical elements from living organisms to the environment. Again from environment to the living organisms are called biogeochemical cycles. They are broadly classified into three categories. One is the gaseous cycles. Cycling of gaseous elements are called gaseous cycles. You can take the example here, nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. Nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. First POC we are going to discuss the nitrogen cycle. Afterwards I am going to explain. Second POC you are going to study the carbon cycle. These are the best example for the gaseous cycles. Next one is the sedimentary cycles. Cycling of sedimentary elements are called sedimentary cycles. You can take the example of sulfur cycle and phosphorus cycle. So these are the sedimentary cycles. Sulfur and phosphorus. The last one is the hydrologic or water cycle. Among the three biogeochemical cycles now, water cycle or hydrologic cycle is the biggest cycle in the globe. Biggest cycle, biogeochemical cycle in the world is the water cycle only. You remember this. I think you are getting it. In the sedimentary cycles, you people are going to discuss the phosphorus cycle in the second POC. Clear? So these are the three types of biogeochemical cycles. I'll repeat once again. Cycling of chemical elements from living organisms to the environment. Again from environment to the living organisms are called biogeochemical cycles. They are classified into three categories. Gaseous cycles. Cycling of gaseous elements are called gaseous cycles. Example, the nitrogen and carbon cycle. Got it? Afterwards, I am going to explain the nitrogen cycle. Cycling of sedimentary elements are called sedimentary cycles. Example, sulfur cycle and phosphorus cycle. Cycling of water molecules are nothing but water cycle or hydrologic cycle. This is the biggest biogeochemical cycle in the world. That is should keep in our mind. Each and every species has its own significant role to maintain the water cycle in the nature. If any one species is lost, okay, it indirectly or directly affects the water cycle. Clear? So this much you should remember. Now you take a small break. After the break, I'll explain the nitrogen cycle. Thank you.